Welcome back to Trip of Our Life. I'm Alex, and today we're talking about this brand new paver patio that we built out here at our farm. This is my family's 45 acres out in central Ohio, and we love it out here. We are in the process of turning this place into our own private campground. We have a few different RV sites out here already. We are this close to being done with our off-grid water system. But today we're focusing on the patio because this is the newest addition to everything out here. A few years ago, we built these pavilions and this big concrete pad up here, and then we decided we wanted more of like what we're gonna call it, I think is a sun deck, something like that. We're gonna put a fire ring right here. That's coming very soon. We're gonna build some lounge furniture to go on the other side. We got some chairs, but basically we just wanted another like elevated space with an incredible view where we could get some sun and just enjoy being out here. This space is almost 600 square feet, so this was not a small project. We did it completely ourselves in the family. We picked up all the materials from a local big box store, Menards. We got railroad ties there. We got the pavers from there. We got them on super special. These are like $1 a piece when we got them on sale, so pretty reasonable for this size of a space. But this was a lot of work. The first thing we had to do was cut off all the topsoil. You don't want to build on top of topsoil because it sinks, it moves. The grass, even once the grass dies, the topsoil with all that root and organic matter in it, it kind of compresses and changes shape over time. And you don't want that, because if you're building something like this, you don't want it to come back. You don't want to come back next year and it's all warped and goofy shaped, especially like over the winter. Things can move around a lot when the ground freezes and kind of frost heaves up and everything. So you want to be sure you're taking off the top 4 to 6 inches. Really, it kind of just depends on your soil and your grass type, but in this region 4 to 6 inches is a good starting point. After that, you're usually in soil that isn't going to be moving as much. Len wants credit for what she's doing.
I don't do much, but what I do is helpful, right?
Very helpful. Moving all this dirt took a lot more time than we expected. We scooped it out with the excavator, and then we moved it over this way into this big pile for storage and reuse at a later date for another project someday. So we use the tractor to move it over here. Excavators are great at digging, but they are not good at traveling long distances. So we use the tractor and the bucket for that. But it might not look like it. Actually, I'm sure it doesn't look like it on camera, but that's a pretty good sized pile of dirt. I don't know how many trips it took over here. And unfortunately, we have kind of worn a little bit of a path in the grass here, and caused a little bit of damage, but it'll come back. But so getting rid of the topsoil was job number one. I don't know, maybe it took a half a day, something like that. The next job was to start cutting in where the railroad ties were going to go, and obviously the railroad ties needed to be level, so we used a laser leveling transit to make sure that we had basically flat railroad ties all the way out and around as we built this patio. Digging in these railroad ties was pretty straightforward. We used the combination of the excavator and just good old-fashioned shovels to get them in place and adjust them as necessary. Then we brought the tractor around and backfilled to kind of hold things in place. This bottom layer we did not really need to secure because it was going to be dug all the way around, but every other layer we used drill and rebar to basically pin the next layer to the bottom layer below it. And something we learned is that you need an auger style bit and not a traditional looking drill bit. I'll link one in the comments below here, but basically the auger bit just drilled so much better. And you are definitely going to need a corded drill if you're going to try and do something like this. A battery drill, even a good one, just isn't going to have enough steam to do any number of these before you get worn out. Hammering in these rebars was not very fun, but we got it done, and as you can see here, we kind of all took turns to divide it up. Having the grapple on the excavator made this job so much easier. It wasn't necessary, you could do it by hand, but man, being able to just sort through a pile of railroad ties, rotate them around, and lift them exactly where you need to go it just really saved all of our backs. Like you can see here, I'm flipping them around, trying to find one that's going to match in the right spot here. And, it just It definitely made our day a little easier, and it's fun. Who doesn't like playing with an excavator? If you're interested, this is a Ripa R32 Pro, a Chinese excavator. I actually have a whole series of videos about this machine. It's relatively new, and I've been thoroughly enjoying it so far. And the attachment that I'm talking about here is a rotating log grapple. So not only is it able to grab things, but it can rotate at any angle, and that really helps. Instead of just squaring off the corners here, we decided to do kind of a chamfered edge. It's really just an artistic decision. It did force us to kind of 45 some of these things here, and we just cut those off with a chainsaw. Not very tricky, but railroad ties are pretty nasty to cut through. They're really wicked tough wood, and they've been all packed full of creosote and other chemicals for the last however many decades these things are. These are used railroad ties from Menards. They're 20 bucks a piece, which is a pretty good deal for how much of a sturdy, like long-lasting building material that they are. I think we used about 20 railroad ties on this whole thing here. So, decent number of railroad ties considering they weigh about 200 pounds a piece. Working with these railroad ties should have been a bother, but again, use the excavator with the grapple so we could grab them and place them exactly where they needed to go. That was key. Next thing to do was to fill our railroad tie frame with gravel and sand. We ended up buying a truckload of gravel that we divided up between a new RV site. We'll talk about that in another video. And we put the rest of it inside the frame there, but that wasn't enough. So we ended up getting some gravel from this back part of our property. We got a lot of rock out of there, and then we also got a lot of sand. So you can see here, I'm scooping it up, dumping it into the little wagon behind the four-wheeler just to help. So we'd put maybe 600-700 pounds in that little trailer. My dad would drive that up. And then I would drive up another load with the tractor, and I was able to get a surprising amount of sand in that bucket on my tractor. I need to look it up. I think it's somewhere about a half a yard a piece, but you can see here, I mean, it's a pretty good load of sand. And my dad and I were trying to think back through that day, and I think that we figured we did maybe 20 trips each or something to the back of the property. And it's not the most fun thing, but the tractor has air conditioning, so you just sit in there, listen to the radio, and just drive the tractor back and forth. But overall, we had the easy job just trucking everything back and forth. My mom, my sister, Len, and others all helped rake everything out. We did our best to rake it out smooth, just kind of eyeballing it, and then we did run another mason line. And we just kind of took our time here to try and spread it out as best we could. And then eventually we rode over it back and forth with the golf cart many times to kind of help smooth it out.
You don't have to film the whole time. Just like 5 seconds.
This really was a family activity, and my son couldn't help but join the fun with his little backhoe. After it was all said and done, we had a relatively flat, compacted sand base for our pavers, and we were pretty happy with it so far. After we got this entire thing filled with rock and sand and smoothed out as best we could, the next step was to put in nearly 600 of these pavers. Putting in the pavers was probably, well, no, it was definitely the worst part of the whole job. And we're not professionals, and we've only done this once before, and it took a long time, and we could have done it better looking back. We did basically a big T shape with mason lines, and so we tried to do, as you can see here, a row of pavers straight down the middle, and then we kind of worked in a diagonal pattern out from there. And it started off great, but pretty soon we didn't have a long enough screed board to help keep us level. And so then we had to kind of rerun new mason lines here and there. And it was just a slow process. And ultimately, the biggest thing we did wrong is not having a perfectly flat sand base to start with. We thought it would be close enough, and then we would just bucket in sand, here or there when we needed it. But as it turns out, almost every single paver needed a lot of fine tuning. You can see here, Len's working on it, and so is my mom. We had to really just kind of get each one perfect. And we've seen professionals do this, and when you have a perfect sand base, you just lay them out and it seems to go pretty fast. But we did not have that here, and it took us a lot longer than necessary. But There really aren't any big shortcuts because the fact is 600 pavers is just a lot of work. It took us about a week. Everybody chipped in through on the evenings. By far, my parents did, I think, the most number of pavers. They came out every night for 7 days straight working on this, and everyone else chipped in where they could. It was a big effort, and it's not perfect, but it all came together pretty well, and we're really happy with the end result here. In case you're wondering, these pavers weigh 17 pounds apiece, so 600 of them weighs 10,200 pounds. So any way you cut it, that's a lot of material to be moving around, even with equipment. But generally, we moved these down from the pallets where they were placed off a forklift. We moved them all down in a wheelbarrow, and it was quite a few trips on the wheelbarrow. And we all got it done here, but we were all pretty sore and ready to be done with this project by the end. One of the last things that needed doing was to do all of the trim pavers, I'll call them, all the ones that needed custom cut around the edge since we did this stair step pattern. So all I did is just use an old circular saw and went to Menards and bought a diamond blade for it. It was about $35. And some people use this on like a wet saw, but we just used what we had, and although it made a lot of dust, it actually worked really well, and one blade made it through the entire project. I don't know exactly how many we cut, but it was quite a bit. Definitely wear a respirator if you're doing a project like this. That dust is super nasty. I do have a cordless circular saw, but again, this is one of those projects where you just need the extra horsepower that comes with a plug-in corded tool. The last step in the whole process was to get more sand from the creek and broom it out over all of the pavers. This is actually a super important step to just help lock everything together and prevent any extra movement. This part went fast, and before you knew it, we had a finished patio. You go to see we got a little sand left here on the edge that needed broomed off, but we were done. We were so happy. We were ready to just enjoy this and be done with this project. It was a big one, and it turned out so good. We just could not be more thrilled with this new space. My mom put in these little baby lavender plants. We're hoping they will grow big and really kind of fill out the space here and make it look nice. We have these big pallets of blocks here. These are wedge blocks, and we are going to build a fire pit in kind of this section here. We ordered a stainless ring, like a smokeless ring insert that will go inside of a circular fire pit that we will build out of these blocks. But we are waiting to receive that ring before we start putting these blocks in there, just because we want it to be a good fit. We don't want to have to do it twice. So as soon as that ring shows up, we will build our fire ring. I think my sister wants to build some type of like an L-shaped lounger for over here. And I think that's probably going to be about the end of it. We put these stairs in here in the middle. These are obviously just more railroad ties. And it's a very overbuilt set of steps. I think you could drive a truck over them and it would be just fine. Drive a train over them, in fact. So a little bit overkill there, but it kind of fits the aesthetic of all this, and it's really easy. You just stack them up, and we used a drill and rebar to hold them all together. This top railroad tie here is actually the third one high on the front here, so we cut down quite a ways to make this. And yeah, right now it only looks like it's just one railroad tie tall here, but that's because all of this got reshaped, and we're really happy with how this turned out. So now this is just our new hangout place for the foreseeable future. So I think that's it for this one, guys. This is our new patio. We love it. We're excited to use it. This coming weekend, we're having a huge party out here, and we can't wait to share all of this with our friends and family. We'll see you next Friday.